that company started to tank in stocks. And my dad, I guess, kept buying on the way down, pouring more and more into it. And what ended up happening was he lost all of his life savings. So it was really just a very sad time for our family. But because of that, his health just plummeted.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh Rimany. I am the pharmacist that deprescribes drugs by giving people health and wellness tips, tricks, hacks to moving their health from maybe not so good to vibrant. Follow along if you're ready to go beyond the pills.
Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Pills. I am Josh Rimany, the unpharmacist. I love getting people off medications, or at least the unnecessary ones. My guest today, my colleague here, Rene Liaw. He is the Opulence Global Senior Executive, and he's been there for over 16 years. Welcome, Rene.
Well, thank you so much, Josh, for having me here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Today we are going to talk about the fountain of life and what lignans are and really why and how, of course, where are you and how you got here, but really want to talk about this really amazing, I don't like to call them products, nutrients, things that we're doing beyond the pills to get people healthy. And what I really loved about exploring and getting into this particular product, because I love these types of products, it's got a lot of benefit and it's pretty simplified from the standpoint of what you need to do. So welcome, Rene. I'm so glad that you're here because we share the same passion rooted around health, wellness, and healing. So we're just here to listen to your story a little bit, who you are, what got you to where you are, and then we'll do a deep dive into the fountain of life.
Thank you, Josh. A bit of background on myself. So I'm in Toronto, Canada. I actually studied in software engineering and computer science. And so that was my actual major. However, as I got older, I worked for some really large companies like IBM, TELUS, which is Canada's largest telecom company. To make a long story short, my dad had invested in some stocks in a company that my sister was working for. It was called Nortel. I'm not sure if you heard of that in the States, but it was like a booming company. Stocks went from like $1 to like $60 and $80. So anyways, because my sister worked there, my father actually dumped almost all of his life savings into that company, only to find out years later on that someone had been, I guess, messing around with the accounting and the actual financial reports of the company, basically over-exaggerating their earnings. So long story short, that company started to tank in stocks. And my dad, I guess, kept buying on the way down, pouring more and more into it. And what ended up happening was he lost all of his life savings. So it was really just a very sad time for our family. But because of that, his health just plummeted. I mean, he started to overeat. I think he came from a family of like 13 children from Malaysia. So back in those days, when dinner hits the table, everyone's fighting for their food portions, right? And so I think combining that bad habit with overeating, probably some depression, anxiety, his temper blew up. But that eventually led to him having a heart attack. And we're very lucky that he was playing badminton, actually. A friend of ours who was also playing there was a doctor, noticed him looking a bit fatigued and a bit like gray skin, and said, Richard, come with me to the hospital right now. And so that kind of saved his life. It didn't help in terms of his health. He had diabetes, he had gout, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, he had fatty liver. And eventually he actually got to the point where his colon was so, I guess, infected that they had to go and cut a huge portion of his intestine out. So I guess because of that, I was always seeking a more natural way, because in our home, when you open up one of the cabinets, you see it's like a mini pharmacy in his own shelf at home. And so that kind of started my deep dive into trying to find a much better solution, a much healthier solution, because he was popping so many pills per day. And I'm glad that we found that today with the Fountain of Life. So that's my background.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to emphasize, and I emphasize it almost on everybody, is people's well-care or wellness journeys always are rooted around a personal story. So when we talk about being a pharmacist or a doctor or someone in the traditional healthcare model, it's you're passionate about helping other people and learning about health. But when you get to that sort of wellness side where it's alternative and complementary and lifestyle and nutrition focused or functional medicine focused in my case, you always have a personal story attached to some transformation that gets you to do that you want to do it for others. So talk to us about how you got to where you are, because you've been a senior executive. You're there. You've been in this company for 16 years. So obviously you have a passion and a purpose around this. So talk to me a little bit about how you got here, and then we'll talk a little bit, like a lot of it, about the process, the product, and what it is.
Yeah.
Because I think people are starting to dying to know now, like, all right, what was the solution?
I think because I really believe in that what you put out to the universe, sometimes you get back. And I think just by luck, my sister had actually come across and met the actual owner of the company today, Opulence Global, who's the creator of the Fountain of Life. We just connected about 16 years ago. I just loved where he was heading. So eventually we came across this product. And a bit of a background, we were actually initially trying to create this really super anti-aging skincare line. We had actually hired one of the top formulators in North America to formulate that particular product. It's interesting because he was actually the head formulator for huge companies like L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, these billion-dollar companies. He was the main formulator. So when we actually contracted him to go and formulate our product line, he was a bit shocked because usually he's given a budget on how much to spend to create a skincare line or anti-aging line. Yep. And our CEO gave him a blank check and said, I want the absolute best. Like, it must work and it must be the best, and there's no price limit. Turns out that this particular formulator actually knew of a scientist who lived in Finland. The skin is one of the biggest organs of the body. We all need antioxidants, but he knew that it's very important to get the best antioxidant on the skin. So long story short, this Fountain of Life product here is actually one of the ingredients in our skincare line. That's sort of where the history came from. But what's really remarkable is the story of how the scientists even came across this. So what was happening was in Finland, he had his kitchen, and there's this big Norwegian spruce tree blocking the light into the kitchen. And his wife asked the scientist, can you go and please cut this tree down because it's just blocking the light? So when he cut the tree down, he had cut the branches first and eventually the actual stump. But he noticed that days later that the actual tree branch was still alive days and weeks later. He thought that's kind of curious because most trees, when you cut their branch off, all the leaves fall off and they start to wither and die. And so he actually took one of the branches, wrapped it up, and left it in his actual freezer just to keep it there. And he was busy doing other projects in the meantime. A few years later, his wife is cleaning out the freezer and finds this wrapped up tree branch and says, do something with this or I'm going to toss it in the garbage. And when he actually took out the tree branch and opened it up again, he noticed that it was actually still alive, that the broken end of the branch that was cut off had grown a new layer to protect itself again. So he realized that this particular Norwegian spruce tree is like a self-healing tree. It's naturally antimicrobial, antibacterial, so it can actually fight against insects that are on the tree. It's also disease-free, so some trees can get sick. This particular tree never gets sick. It's also self-healing. So the main ingredient that they realized was lignans, as you mentioned earlier, lignans. So that's the history here. I do have a PowerPoint that maybe I could show a few more things if that would help, John.
Yeah, that would be great. I love this origin story, though. It's most scientific breakthroughs happen by accident. Yeah. The accident was, and I loved how you snuck in the universe thing, right? So I'm a big fan of energy and the universal laws and stuff. But one of those things is you had intention. It came to you in the way that you least expected it, which is how it's supposed to happen. But then the same thing is this scientist who has a certain brain of like why is happening mechanisms, literally got a to-do list from his wife, cut down the tree because we need sunlight, which became, why is that? What is this? And then all of a sudden we get to this point where it's in the freezer. It's still alive. Why is it still alive? Moving into this mechanistic component. And oh, by the way, he's a scientist that formulates, right? And so I love that origin story. So let's dive into, well, that's how we found out about Norwegian spruce and lignans. Now let's talk a little bbit about that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So usually we kind of start off a lot of times just sort of sharing with people some quick facts here that I'm sure you and your whole community know about, but things like cancer is just on the growth, on the rise, diabetes going way past 1 billion people supposedly by 2050. And there's now a shortage, of course, on insulin. And so we have, again, just amazing things for that, to obesity on the rise, to things like mental health. Dementia is just really taking off. And of course, even heart disease, right? So What's really remarkable that we realized is that lignans that we were talking about earlier is what we're missing. And it used to be very predominant in all of the different things that we used to eat. However, nowadays, with the way that they process foods, insecticides, pesticides, in farming different ways, we've lost a lot of the lignans. So basically, lignans are actually found in all of your fruits, all of your vegetables, all of your seeds, your nuts, even your juice, coffee, tea, wine, even beer, because it's basically the plant antioxidants. But the scientists that we have realized that we're missing huge amounts of lignans in our diets today. They are just simply plant antioxidants that help to neutralize things like free radicals. And we can discuss, of course, what those are later on. But you can get a little bit of it, but just extremely tiny amounts. And we even have a chart to show you all exactly how little lignans you're getting in your everyday fruits and vegetables. So one of the cool things with the scientists that we talked about earlier was that it took them a while to find a way to actually extract the lignans from this tree and put it into a way of us to be able to consume it orally and get it into our bloodstream. But he has done that now. The lignans that come from wood extracts, so instead of coming from your fruit or vegetables, if it came from an actual wood extract, it also has amazing anti-inflammatory activities. And so that has a huge benefit in by itself. So our scientists have just discovered the world's best source of lignans. It's from the Norwegian spruce tree. And it's a very cool self-healing tree, disease-free, antimicrobial, and antibacterial. Lignans is another, I guess, way to understand that is it's a phytoestrogen.
Yep.
And now with phytoestrogens, there's just so much studies on that having the ability to also to balance hormones for men and for women as well too. This is our typical slide that helps to explain what free radicals are. And of course, if you don't take care of those free radicals, eventually it builds up to oxidative damage. And that causes, of course, our cells to essentially age and to cause a lot of diseases in the future. And I find that sometimes people don't even realize how many areas that we can get free radicals. Here's a little simple chart from lack of sleep to the Wi-Fi or the 5G, viruses, bacteria, over-exercise, eating processed foods, toxins, cigarette smoke, household chemicals. And now we have things like marijuana, we have people who are vaping, radiation, mold, some drugs, antibiotics, stress, of course, UV rays, pollution, and even alcohol. And I find that, unfortunately, stress and alcohol kind of go hand in hand. When you're kind of stressed out, some people turn to alcohol. So it's kind of like a double whammy.
Yeah, well, this is a really good slide for people because the downstream effect of these free radicals, we're looking at what this is. Literally, this is internal and external environment. Our environments are highly toxic, more so than our grandparents. So we're exposed to more chemicals in our environment. Just look at the outside environment in 1 month than our grandparents were exposed to in a lifetime. So we're moving and producing more of the outside chemicals. And I would argue our internal emotional stress and the EMFs and all of these things are in processed foods are also increasing. So our toxic burden and load is getting increased. Problem I always say with people is, but our genetics haven't changed that much in hundreds of years. So we have this toxic burden problem of which we need more help from our external environment to help mitigate the damage. Because what we're talking about here, free radicals, these things that happen in our internal, external environment are causing a downstream effect of inflammation, which is an immune response, which causes the disease progression, the dis-ease in our bodies. So I wanted to make sure we paused here to make sure people understood this is what we have in front of us. Now we're finding that these things are more important to be able to be in front of. And what are our solutions now? Because like you said, we can't eat these just by the micro doses we're getting in our food itself.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that, Josh. And again, it's a very simple slide to explain how the antioxidants, of course, can help to neutralize the free radicals. But this is really interesting because, again, in terms of trying to get these antioxidants, some people do turn to vitamins or artificial sources. We've just found that in some cases, in some studies, that when you eat a vitamin, that it takes quite some time to traverse 20 minutes down to small intestine. Of course, the absorption rate can be a little bit slow. So typically, the more better source for lignans have been natural fruits and vegetables. However, you have very low amounts of lignans, and of course, they can go bad. And the bigger issue, especially because I'm from an Asian background, in Asian heritage, we always cook, stir fry, or boil our vegetables. We never eat them raw.
Mhm.
You go to a Chinese restaurant and eat a raw vegetable. It's always fried, cooked. So unfortunately, the second you add heat to any of the fruits or vegetables, you actually destroy those lignans. Another really interesting fact just to share with people is that the scientists do recommend that for the healthy diet that we are consuming 50 to 100 milligrams of lignans per day. From studies, we've now found that on average, people are getting 1 milligram of lignin per day. So it's really just low amounts. And again, if you're cooking your vegetables, that's probably why, or some people just don't eat enough fruits and vegetables to begin with. Here's a really cool chart just to share with people where lignans can come from. And this is a measurement based upon micrograms per 100 ml. So if you have kilograms, then you have grams, smaller size, then you have milligram, then smaller than milligram, you have a microgram. Of course, from your milks, your juices, coffees, teas, beer. Wine would have the most amount of lignans because of the grapes usually, but only 91 micrograms per 100 milliliters of wine. In the actual fruits category, one of the highest ones, of course, well, the oils, you have olive oil, but in terms of the fruits here, the apricot is very high.
Yep.
So again, 450 micrograms for eating 100 grams of apricot. So again, just by the way, 100 ml and 100 grams is actually the same measurement. Just one's in volume, one's in actual substance matter. And then, of course, in vegetables, what's really interesting here is that the more bitter something is, you'll notice that usually the more healthier it is. And that also kind of has a relationship with the actual amount of lignans. So 100 grams of kale gives you about 2,300 micrograms, which again converts to 2.3 milligrams of lignans.
Milligrams. And we were talking 50 to 100 milligrams. So you guys do the math. How much kale do you need to eat to get what you're supposed to need?
I don't think anyone eats
a lot. Too much. Not humanly possible. It was a really good answer though. Like the same thing happens with adaptogenic herbs. It's the bitterness of the herb. The bitterness is what protects them in their environment, but it also is the health component. So that's why the bitterness factor goes up. The health factor of how it helps us in our bodies as well as in nature. This is how I love the beautifulness of nature giving us what we need and doing the same thing in our bodies.
Yes.
Which is always amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny because we eat kale, but we never eat it raw. It's just right. But then if you cook it again, then there goes all of those lignans, right?
Yep.
So on this next chart here, it's talking about the breads and the seeds. So just look at this comparison here. So in the past, the number one source of lignans came from the flaxseed.
That's what people are probably already saying. I know lignans because I've heard of flax.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, the one thing about the lignan, when you actually eat it, the only challenge is as humans, we can't actually digest that many lignans. So it comes in a sugar molecule. You have to cleave it. It has to convert from the flaxseed lignan is called SDG. It's a different kind. It's still a lignan, but it's a different classification of lignan called SDG. Ours is called HMR in short. But the SDG lignan has to convert to estradiol and then to enterlactone. So it's quite the step. And again, your body just can't really digest that many seeds. So that's where Fountain of Life has become the most simplest and easiest way of ensuring your lignans. So if I were to convert this 300,000 micrograms, it's roughly about 301 milligrams, per 100 ml or grams of content. So doing that same amount with our product called Fountain of Life, we are getting 5,166 milligrams of lignans. Fountain of Life has about 17 times or 1,700% more lignans compared to the flaxseed. And you'll see later on, the really cool thing with Fountain of Life, this drop is, the second you put it under your tongue, like sublingually, it starts to enter your bloodstream immediately. And then the rest that you actually swallow, we have these studies now that all of it gets actually absorbed into your bloodstream. So unlike the flaxseed where a lot of it doesn't, with Fountain of Life, all of it actually does. So it's pretty cool. We kind of talked about already the story of the fountain of life. One thing I wanted to point out here, Josh, was that we all eat our fruits and vegetables that grow from the tree, but we've never really eaten the tree itself. But the tree itself is what can live for sometimes thousands or even millions of years, right?
Mhm.
And so we're really happy to have brought this out to the market. Just some other really fun facts that the oldest known Norwegian spruce tree is called the old Ginkgo. It's over 9,500 years old now, so almost 10,000 years old. The tallest measured Norwegian spruce tree grows to over 204 feet tall. So these trees are just so strong.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it's important to know because I think what people try not to correlate, but what I've correlated a lot with in my journey in functional and integrative health is we alluded to it earlier. The reason we're putting these stats up is because this particular tree has a longevity to it. It has a vibrancy to it in life, in our world. But when we extract things, penicillin came from mold. There's things that we can ingest that aren't just taste or give us energy. These micronutrients, the lignans that we found, the extract of this Norwegian spruce tree is the causality of what we postulate to date of a lot of the vibrancy and longevity. What I don't think people understand is when we ingest some of these things, our bodies are inherently, like you said, the absorption, the bioavailability of getting it into this bloodstream, because it's some things you excrete very, like the lignin itself of the flax, you're not going to absorb, you're going to excrete a lot of those because
Yes.
we don't have the propensity to absorb. But when we do these things in the specific ways, like you guys have done with the science side of this, is how do we get it from the tree into our bodies? And what does it do once it gets there?
Yeah.
Is really important because what nature provides is what our bodies inherently know what to do. This has happened and this has been proven in science over and over again. It's similar to taking, I love analogies, is taking vitamin C synthetically or getting it with all the bioflavonoids and the things from the fruit. You're getting the rose hips, you're getting the things that are inherently helping you absorb it more naturally. So I love the fact that you brought this up, but I wanted to point out to people, we're not just telling you that the tree is good, it's because we're trying to emulate what that does to the body.
Yes.
Cool.
And in fact, some people ask the question, well, where do you source this from? And the funny thing is, even here in Canada, we have Norwegian spruce tree, but we only gather the lignans from the trees in the northernmost part of Finland because of the extreme cold weather. And we found that the colder the weather, the trees tend to be a lot stronger and have much more lignin content because it could be minus 80, minus 90 sometimes in those places. And that's why we only stick to sourcing the lignans from those trees in that northern part of Finland as well.
It's because they've been stressed at the highest level, which means they have to produce more of the thing that's keeping them vibrant, which means you're getting more bang for your buck.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
We don't even cut the trees down, by the way. We are a byproduct of the paper and mill industry. The one thing about Finland is that they had an amazing, for many generations now, a tree restoration process. So there's never ever going to be a shortage. And oftentimes, we just want the branch. Some lumber mill companies want the actual tree stump and they don't want the branches. And we're like, we'll take the branches then, So
Well, I think that's important because people like me love sustainability. So this product is environmentally conscious as well. It's sustainable. It's really important to the health-minded conscious person because I think that was probably in the root of some people's head is like, you're just chopping down trees, extracting the fountain of youth from them and then leaving them for dead, right? No, this isn't the case. I love that you brought that up. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to bring that because I know that for some people it's very important, and even for myself too, right? Because we want to make sure that we have this not just for my generation, but my kids take it and their future children hopefully as well too. So basically, just to give some comparisons to make it more sort of in layman terms, taking 10 drops of Fountain of Life is equivalent to having eaten 1,800 cups of apples of lignans. Japanese people, I believe they still have the longest living lifespan, I think because of the great diet in fish, also with green tea. Yeah. And so 10 drops is equivalent to having 50 cups of green tea. Onions are good for us, 150. So again, we just can't eat that many cups of oatmeal or cabbage So 10 drops, it's so convenient, it's so small, it fits in your pocket, it fits in your purse, it fits in your car. It's just that simple. We're here to introduce, of course, the Fountain of Life. We are Health Canada with an NPN regulated number. Health Canada is one of the most toughest health organizations to get your approvals with. And we had to prove to Health Canada, why can't humans eat trees, basically? And so we have that done now, and we have the NPN number. We do have 100% exclusive rights globally through our different partners. So it's natural, vegan, alcohol-free, gluten-free, GMO-free, made in Canada. And right now, I would love to share some of the benefits that we've seen and some testimonials. Is that okay with you, Josh?
Yeah, that's good. I think this is the piece of the meat. We know where it came from. We know why it's important, but everybody wants to know, like, well, what's in it for me? And this product has been around for a long time now. So we've gotten historical data. We've got some of the science. I can't wait to dive into the absorption and the bioavailability and that stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we've gotten some science. We understand the process and how it works. Now let's talk a little bit about from the perspective of benefit. What can it do if we optimize with lignans of this caliber?
So one of the things that I was really excited to get my hands on this product was because my hair, you can't tell now, but I was really thinning before. So you could see actually my scalp, I was really thinning. I think for a lot of men, hair is important if you can keep it. So because Fountain of Life is a phytoestrogen, it actually helps to balance your hormones. So with hair loss, we all know that DHT, which converts from testosterone because of the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, DHT can go into your scalp and shrink those hair follicles. So for me, just about 6 weeks after taking the product, I could not imagine what my hair did. So it basically stopped the hair follicles from shrinking. So it grew back thicker. And of course, the hair grew much stronger as well, too. So one of the key things is that a lot of people are looking for hair solutions. And the Fountain of Life, so many people around the globe now are seeing tremendous benefits before and after, just within about 5 to 6 weeks with their actual hair, especially for some ladies who approach menopause. Typically with menopause, you have hot flashes, your hormones are out of whack, you can be a little bit moody perhaps, and of course your hair falls out because women also have DHT as well too, is that they're seeing a reduction in hair loss. One lady actually said, wow, when I brush my hair's not falling out anymore. Like I don't have to go and pick up all these strands of hair on the floor. So it actually also helps with the hot flashes. So a lot of women now are not experiencing these really uncomfortable hot flashes or mood swings. Their hair is staying strong too. Now, this is a different case. This is actually alopecia, which is usually an autoimmune disorder. It's very tough to deal with. We have now these customers that after using FOL for 3 months and 4 months, all of their hair is growing back. If you can see this as a result for the autoimmune issue, imagine all the other autoimmune issues that this can also help with as well too.
Yeah, and I think this is important because I think people are going to put into like their stories are going to come up and say, well, this isn't like the cure all for everything, but what we're expressing here is these downstream effects of ill health. So when you're putting it in the upstream space and you're adding these lignans, for example, these things that are very antioxidant rich, it's allowing the body. It's not the thing that's doing it. The thing is helping biochemistry go towards the pathway of more balance. Autoimmune means immune is highly upregulated and in the wrong way, similar to a cancer, similar to the alopecia. I love how you correlated down the hormone pathway. It's not that we lose hair, it's we're out of balance. And so for just want everybody to know as we're going through these things that are useful, we're seeing them in case studies here because of the upstream effect that this is causing. The farther upstream you get to imbalance, the more you affect the downstream cause.
Yeah, I love that. Exactly. Here's an example, a much more milder case of alopecia. Usually they're like little toonies. Well, in Canada, we have the $2 toonie size on the heads, and that's gone away in about a few months time frame. Here is actually a more severe case of alopecia. Now, this gentleman also lost about 60 pounds when he started taking the fountain. He was really just overweight. You can see now over 3-4 months, an amazing improvement, of course, on his hair as well, too. This is actually one of my friends that I was just chatting with earlier today. So a lot of people do take it orally because you want to balance those hormones. You want to prevent the DHT, of course, from forming. But he also used it topically. So a lot of people were actually putting the Fountain of Life into their hand while shampooing. And so after they shampoo their hair out the shower, they actually put it into their scalp. So this is also a product that can be used topically. And you will see a lot more case studies with topical use a bit later on too. So there's another lady here. I can see here at the back of her head, just really a lot of gap in her hair. And you can see here just a few weeks later, just the fullness of her hair developing. Just for the hair wise, it does amazing wonders before and after. You can just see how quickly this actually does work for people. And what you will find, actually, Lisa here was actually one of the contestants on Bachelor. You know the Bachelor show?
Yeah.
But she was on the Bachelor Canada version. And she was saying that to me after being on The Bachelor, they kept dyeing her hair in, just the everyday dyeing and perming. Her hair wasn't growing. It was just really damaged. And just by using the Fountain of Life, like hair usually grows about half an inch every month. And she noticed that for her hair grew more than an inch in less than like 20 days or so. Your nails will go faster, your hair grows faster. In other words, it's actually helping to increase circulation in your body. We had some other clients that had, for example, blood clots. They realized a few weeks later, going back to the doctors, that the blood clot was completely gone. So circulation, metabolism will also pick up as well too. So this is another really cool case where Katrina here had an inflamed knee. It's very red, very painful. And what people do is they actually take a full dropper under the tongue and also rub the Fountain of Life topically on the surface. So what we're trying to do here is try to tackle the inflammation, not just from the inside, but also from the outside. And that works very quickly as well too. So it's very, very cool how that works. Because you can see here from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., and then just at 4:30 in the morning, you can see it's like inflammation is completely gone and pain is completely gone in the morning. So people that have, for example, arthritis, this is a very, very powerful product when it comes to arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. Very, very effective. They'll see the benefits, literally the first dropper that they actually take as well. Now, this gentleman, I was actually in Singapore and he came to me limping and he had just a really bad case of gout. His ankle, the photos don't quite do justice, but it was just bright, swollen red like a tomato. All I did was I gave him a full dropper, same thing, and I also rubbed about 3 drops into his ankle. And just 30 minutes later, we looked down again onto his ankle and we're like, oh my goodness, the swelling is gone and his pain was gone as well too. So we found now that with things like uric acid in your body, it can also help to correct the uric acid as well too. Another case of a nurse that had gout, about 5 days later, the gout was completely gone, again, using the Fountain of Life. In terms of diabetes, you mentioned how free radicals, inflammation, and it kind of spirals to all these other different diseases. We've actually realized now that with type 2 diabetes, inflammation is one of the main causing reasons because when your body is inflamed, then the insulin that your pancreas produces can't be absorbed by your actual cells. It's funny, your body thinks that you don't have enough insulin, so you create more insulin, but you're still very resistant because of the inflammation. So when people who have type 2 diabetes start taking Fountain of Life and instantly that anti-inflammation starts to happen, wow, their sugar levels from, we have some people from 23 sugar levels, really, really high, down to 7, down to 5. So for Francine here, from 259 went down to about 210. That's a measurement in the Caribbean islands. Here in North America, we have another case here from Carmen, a sugar level of 12 to 15 down to an 8 just by taking FOL for about 2 weeks.
We just had to distinguish that there's different units of measurement in different countries because in the United States, we're looking at the 210s as high and the 100 fasting is good. So the other one is looking at it from a different unit. Just want everybody to know that.
So here in Canada, 5 is normal. So anything above 5 is no good. So you can see the 29.5 is just absolutely dangerously high. And now, of course, after using FOL, it's down to the high 4s and mid 6s. His arthritis is gone. His blood pressure was normalized. Now, this is more of a grotesque image, so I apologize for the graphical images here. However, it's important. Joseph was actually a diabetic since the age of 21. He's now 52. In July of 2019, he had a really, bad wound. And in short, you can see here, that's dead skin, right? The odor, the bad smell. and they were about to amputate on his actual leg. But just 2 days of taking Fountain of Life, 30 drops twice a day, it actually reversed the redness, the swelling, and the bad smell on his leg, and they called off the amputation. This is Joseph actually. As you can see here, just to kind of zoom in here, that's July the 5th, where that yellow skin's kind of dead. It's kind of like almost like mold on the foot. And by August the 6th, you can see how much it's actually healed. He was so happy. He actually came to one of our seminars and gave his live testimonial on how Fountain of Life actually saved his foot as well too. So it's just very powerful. You want to use it definitely orally, but also topically on the wound area as well too. This is actually my own cousin, by the way, in Malaysia. And what happened was he had already had his toe cut off previously from diabetes. His cut off toe kept dripping blood on the floor because William, his sugar was actually 13. It's very, very high. Again, the normal is around 5.0. We eventually sent him a bottle of Fountain of Life. And just by taking it and putting it actually topically on the skin, his sugar dropped down from May. In June, it went down to 5.2 to 5.1, down to 4.9. And all he was taking 10 drops twice a day.
Now, was he changing any lifestyle, diet at the time? I just want people to understand, like, because sometimes there's causality, because it doesn't matter necessarily about the answer. I want to talk to people a little bit about this. It's a good time is when people start something that's healthy for them, whether it's a lifestyle or a supplement, even if they're just monitoring our health, like I got an Oura ring and I monitor my health, just monitoring certain things will get people to do more behaviors. But I'm just curious on this. Yes, we got really good numbers. And for people that go from 13 to 5, that's like going from blood sugar in America from 250 to 100. So I'm going to put it in their perspective because most people are listening here in America, but that's the balance here. But because it's your family here, like what other things was he doing?
William, unfortunately, his lifestyle is just very unhealthy. If you ever go to Malaysia, one of the most common things you'll see is all these small restaurants, and it's always deep fried food, really oily. I mean, it's delicious noodles. It's just so yummy. It's called chai guai diao in Chinese. Delicious, but again, and of course, beer. With William, he was not changing his diet. That's why he had already had one other foot cut off. This is his other foot. And he wasn't improving because he was just not changing anything in his diet. He lost his big toe here. So what happened was just by using the product, he wasn't able to exercise. He wasn't changing his diet. It's really sad that some people can't have the discipline to change. Yeah. So this is just simply all of the effects of Fountain of Life.
So this was literally no diet and lifestyle changes, but by improving that upstream approach, it really was helping his insulin resistance, which is in tune helping his blood sugars because of that inflammatory response on the insulin receptor. Awesome. That's cool.
Yes, no, definitely. So another case of a very old lady, 75 years old, almost had her finger cut off. And again, just putting the drops topically onto the skin, fortified drops, and taking 10 drops under the tongue 3 times a day. They called off the amputation as well too. Now, we had another remarkable testimonial from Leah, who's actually a kidney transplant patient. In short, her creatine levels were just really, really high. It took her several months to have this benefit. So some things you'll see immediate effects, typically with things that are inflammation related, perhaps. But with a kidney, of course, from 432 now down to 247. And more importantly was that her kidney function after the transplant was at about 10.7%. About 6 months later, her kidney function got back over 20%, and her doctors were like, whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it. So today, of course, this was a few years ago now, she's actually fine and dandy. She told me that her cavities in her teeth stopped developing at the same time. Her hair also grew back. Oftentimes in Chinese medicine, we have the 5 elements with fire, water, and wind and metal. It kind of relates to the 5 different parts of your body, your heart, liver, kidney, stomach. So what we found is that when you can have a product that can really slowly repair your main 5 elements, then things just start to look really good for you in general. And Leah had a great benefit here too. Just funny things. We've had people now that have noticed that their cataracts have gone away. Colleen was actually partially blind. And when she went to go and measure her eyesight again after 1 month of using Fountain of Life, her eyes actually improved a little bit. Callie here had identified 2 small lumps in her breast. And when she went back to do the biopsy, they were confused because they even asked her, are you sure you're which breast? Because we can't find it. And then in short, the lump was actually gone. We had to make our usual disclaimers that it's not a cure for any disease or ailment. It's a very powerful plant antioxidant, but we have some incredible stories here. Now, one of the things that I think that you'll love to talk about, Josh, is that typically we found that with antioxidants, it's tough to get into the brain, surpass that blood-brain barrier. A lot of antioxidants might not help with things like Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's, or even things like autism. And because we noticed that when you put this under the tongue, we found that it has amazing benefits on the brain. So it must be passing that blood-brain barrier, because people that have dementia are now being able to recognize their children again. They can hold a cup and they can walk out into public again. So we have this case over here too. In Singapore, it's another lady here who you can see here couldn't recognize her children. Just months later, she's able to function, hold a cup of coffee, go out and hang out with her friends too. So dementia, we have another gentleman that had Parkinson's where his hands were really shaking. And after taking Fountain of Life for a few weeks, the hands calmed down. This is another very amazing testimonial of one of my friends named Madeline. I have her full video, by the way. Her sister actually was at a karaoke and had a stroke all of a sudden. She went to the hospital. Her friends got her there. And basically, her whole right side of the body had no feeling. But Madeline is one of our customers. And when she immediately brought the Fountain of Life to the hospital, you're told not to give stuff to your client. So she kind of secretly basically fed her sister Fountain of Life into her mouth while also rubbing it on the side of the body. So the left side of the brain, because it kind of relates to the right side of the body, is how the brain functions. So left brain, right body, right brain, left side of the body. And so just 5 days later, she was out of ICU. 8 days later, able to get out of bed. 1 month later, discharged from the hospital. So she's in ICU, but a month later, out from the hospital and walking with a walking stick. 2 months later, walking without assistance. And 5 months later, now driving a car on her own. We just found that for preventing things like stroke, or even if you have a stroke, just great to use the Fountain of Life as well too. Another gentleman that had stroke, and he's 81 years old, couldn't walk, had to be led around on June 13th. On July 2nd, started using FOL. On July 6th, he just stood up and was dancing in his home. Just amazing what it can really do. So actually, Madeline is the sister of the person 2 slides ago that had the stroke. So Madeline herself, she's actually a stage 3 colon cancer champion. And by the way, we found that Fountain of Life helps cancer from the antioxidant point of view, from increasing apoptosis, which is a signaling of cell death of cancer cells, to being able to stop the metastasizing of the cancer from spreading, and also being able to block a lot of the cancer receptors that trigger the cancer to expand. And we have these studies where it can actually block. So the lignans are able to block the receptors that can cause breast cancer or colon cancer or prostate cancer to actually spread around.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to realize is like we're doing something to help the body. So does the lignin directly or indirectly help? Doesn't really make much of a clinical significance today because we're proving science as we move through history, and especially with nutraceuticals and things that are coming from nature, because we're not studied like pharma. Pharma has billions of dollars to do this, but we're seeing people they do nothing, then they start this, and then they're getting a result. And what you just described was really how the body can respond when it's got the right signals coming in and the wrong signals coming out.
Yes.
So thank you for that clarification. I just want people to understand, like, this is not a cure for everything. The people we're showing here are getting results. We want to make sure we're clear. Like, they are getting results. We should be able to tell people that and make their own informed decision on whether it's good for them. And we'll talk a little bit about that soon as we wrap up, is how do we get started?
Yes, thank you. So I'll just try to fly through the rest of these. We have thousands of these and tens of thousands on our Facebook page, Fountain of Life Official. But she actually took Fountain of Life while going through, of course, her chemo treatments. So in short, she's now cancer-free and she's alive and well. Again, this is another amazing testimonial from Madeline. For prostate, it's excellent. Again, for men with prostate, we find that the DHT does create the prostate to actually enlarge by balancing your hormones. For a lot of the men who are peeing many times at night, they'll find immediate relief with this product. Definitely within the first week, they're peeing a lot less. And when you pee less, you sleep better. And you sleep better, you're more healthier, right? So the whole sort of effect there. And we had this really cool study by the British Journal of Nutrition. They found that the people, these obese subjects that took our 7-HMR lignin for about 2 months period of time, they all saw a 13% decrease in body weight, 18% loss in visceral fat. The liver showed lower fat deposits of 65%, and the bad LDL cholesterol dropped down by 23%. This is another cool study that we have here. So now we've seen people with blood pressure improving from 163, taking it daily, down to 128 over 70, to people seeing tremendous weight loss. I think a lot of that has to do with your metabolism, the blood flowing better as well too, reducing that extra inflammation and water retention. So Callie here lost a lot of weight too. Myself personally lost 13 pounds. Actually, we have studies that show that it's also anti-tumor. So Nora actually has a brain tumor before, and without any chemo or any drugs, a year later, she noticed that her tumor had actually dispersed. It actually just went away. She actually did pee blood the first month, which she was a little bit worried about, but she thought, well, maybe it's actually the thing trying to leave the body kind of idea. So of course now her belly's gone too. This gentleman had a really inflamed stomach. So just 2 months later, about 2 full droppers per day, he kept releasing all this liquid from his body. He's lost a lot of weight, breathing a lot better. We have thyroid testimonials from thyroids to, now these are all topical uses now, athlete's foot, blisters. This is actually a very strange skin issue. And the lady didn't even go to the hospital. She didn't even want to find out what it was. But she started using Fountain of Life, and you can see here that her skin just completely improved. We're sort of thinking it might be like a snake skin disease in Chinese. We're not sure what it was, but this is actually shingles on a boy. Very painful. Again, using FOL topically on his shingles. That also improved too. This is actually a skin disease where in Malaysia, her skin was not growing back and started growing back. For eczema, it's amazing. My son had eczema actually, and just about 3-4 weeks later, his eczema completely disappeared. So eczema testimonials here, to injuries. It can really help you heal the injuries a lot faster. To again, more eczema, sunburn. If you ever have a sunburn, just rub this all over the sunburn. You won't have any peeling. That painful inflammation goes away and it heals very quickly. Calvin, his head injury, 7 days later, it healed very quickly on his head scalp injury. To psoriasis, amazing results, of course, with psoriasis as well too. To cold sores, to wrinkles and sunspots on the skin. And lastly, migraine sufferers, helps a lot with migraines. You will have a much more deeper sleep, we find. And because it's antimicrobial, antibacterial, if you ever have like an upset stomach from perhaps some kind of a raw food that you ate or something that wasn't really cooked too well, definitely go and grab yourself a bottle of Fountain of Life and take it, because you will find amazing benefits, of course. Your stomach pain goes away. That's just a small segment of all the testimonials we actually have here, Josh. So hope you guys enjoy.
So I think it's really good. I think we got a really good data set for people is, one, this isn't the cure of everything. And we're showing what the data supports from the science that we projected to you, right? Lignans are deficient. They're highly antioxidant. The way that it's manufactured and absorbed into the body has been studied and shown. And now we're seeing the downstream effects of a lot of things. I think this is what the goal here is the more upstream you treat the body, the more you're going to get a variance of downstream effects of health. If you're treating inflammation, which is what antioxidants do, but you're treating it really close to the furthest cause or why of where the downstream effect comes, you're out. It makes sense to me, at least the science in me says, well, it makes sense that the downstream effect is this. And of course, the topical piece, and when we jump into the pharmacist space, is like diabetics and all these things that we're trying to treat wounds and stuff, is because it makes sense because of the amount of absorbability of where you get to the action. So I love that duality of this approach. Yes. So we've got dosing for people so they know what to do here, right? Is this where we're going to go?
We definitely recommend to start off with 10 drops. So one bottle has 1,200 drops. and taking about 10 drops, preferably 2 to 3 times per day. That's what we actually suggest to start with. However, we've had some cases of people that had stage 3, stage 4 cancers, and they would take half a bottle per day, and they're actually still alive now, like 5, 6 years later on. Depends, so for everyday maintenance, we would say at least 10 drops about 2 to 3 times per day. But if you have something you're trying to actually kind of get over, then some people actually will squeeze it like this, squeeze it full a few times, and take the full dropper about twice a day. So one full dropper has about 40 drops to do those twice a day. So that's how we can start off with people.
Now, how do people get started? If they're curious and they want to learn more, they want to purchase the product, how do people get started with this? Because it's not in big box retailers. We got a lot of testimonials there. It's a global product. It's being sold all over the place. How many bottles have been sold?
So all I can tell you just from past sort of accounting was when we first launched a product, we had ordered initially about 300,000 bottles, thinking that should be enough to carry us. It's a brand new product. Let's see how it goes. After about 2 months, we realized we're in shortage already. So we had to go and order a lot more. So definitely millions of bottles have now been sold. And so for people who actually want to order it, you can go to the website. It's called FOL.ONE/Beyond the Pills. That's where you can go and place your order. Just a quick note here. The price you see on that website is in Canadian dollars. Just don't forget that if you're in the USA, your US dollars is doing a lot stronger than our Canadian dollar. So it's actually much cheaper for you in the USA.
So good. That's good to know. So yes, we're promoting it here on the Beyond the Pills podcast. We're promoting it to our patient space. We're moving it towards also pharmacists because you and I are talking like we got to get more pharmacies involved in this because it's something that we can also help a lot of our patients because look at all the things we can do. The other thing I want to talk to people about is this is complementary to what you might already be doing. So if you're taking medication, we're not trying to get you off of it. We want you to know that this is something that's natural, it's safe, there's no toxicities that we know, that you can do it in conjunction with where you're at and then see results. What's the retention rate on orders? I want everyone to know this.
Yeah,
Hey, it's nice to say all this, but hey, if I don't get a result, why the hell would I continue to reorder it? But the retention rate, the reorder rate is phenomenal. Is that not right?
it is true. One of the most surprising things that we see now is that over 90% reorder rate, which is just very unheard of. So people who take it, they just keep on buying it because what we've noticed from our customer testimonials is they took it, and if they were to stop taking it, they already feel that they're not really like optimized their body. People that actually buy this product, we have now naturopaths carrying it here in Toronto, all over Canada, to Chinese medicine practitioners, TCMs, to RMTs, massage therapists. We have hair salons that are selling it because they want their clients' hair to grow back a lot quicker so they can actually come back and get another hair done. We even have people that own alcohol stores in Thailand who are selling this because they want their customers who drink alcohol to be healthy and then buy FOL to stay healthy to keep buying more alcohol, right? So it's really funny how we have just so many different venues people try and sell this.
Yeah, and I think that's important is there's different channels to buy it. This is not something that they're going direct to consumer from the perspective of we're going to sell it to Walmarts and big box stores and you're because there's a piece here that we want to make sure is like that there's also different avenues for people to get a solution to a problem that they didn't get because some people that have alopecia aren't going to be able to go to the doctor, but they're going to get their hair cut. You can see that boundary. There's little to no risk here besides, hey, try it for yourself. If you get the result you're looking for, but you also want to make it judiciously. You start with a certain dose and you can slowly taper up if you want to see results if you don't. Like it's very safe, it's effective, it's non-toxic. I love that fact that you kind of put it in there, like different types of providers and different types of channels to get it. We just want to make sure that people have the opportunity to go and get it. We'll put the links in there as well. We'll make sure people understand the science. Can they go to the site to learn more as well?
Yes, actually. So on the FOL.1/Beyond the Pills, there's a lot of great information that's already there. You can read up on all the stuff too. One thing I did want to add, just if we don't forget, is that people do ask the question, well, Rene, can I overdose? And will I get a detox from this product? In our studies now, even consuming over 300 bottles, there's still no toxicity. So whatever your body just doesn't use, it'll just basically excrete. But again, no one ever drinks that many bottles. So you cannot overdose on this product. And also, the second part is for the detox, there's no actual side effect of the product. However, what it is going to try to do is to push out the toxins from your body. Whatever kind of reaction you might experience, it's actually a very good sign that the product is working. So we see in some cases that people, when you detox, either you will urinate or you will go through your feces, or you will actually detox through the sweat pores on your skin. So in some cases, some people might get some itch or rash. That's a great sign that the body is actually working to push out those toxins from your bodies. Some get sleepy, some get more energy, some might go to the washroom more. All those things are absolutely a good sign that it's working. There's no actual side effect of using this product.
I think it's a good point, because I think when we teach detox to people, is the greater the toxic burden and load your body has, the more you're going to detox. So,
Yes.
and a lot of, especially with weight loss and obesity, a lot of our toxins are held in our fat cells. So when we're releasing weight, we talk about this in my Mind Body Reset program, is when you release the fat, you're going to release the toxin. So one good point about that is, if you're doing something that is detoxifying and helping the body, we want to make sure that we're pooping right, we're drinking enough water, we're doing the right things to move the system through. So I like that fact. There's no lethal LD50 dose here. It's very safe. It's very effective in certain things that can be very complementary and very useful. And like I say with my pharmacists that I mentor and my patients, is the first step is to try it and see if it works for you.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, this was very, very informative. I'm really excited for this. I just started this product. I'm getting good results with my sleep. I'm monitoring my heart rate variability so I can see my markers for stress. So I'm a pretty healthy guy. I'm in the health business. I don't have the skin issues or the diabetic issues, but I want to see, I always do me first, seeing the benefits of where I can go. And I'm looking forward, now that I've learned a lot more about it. Thank you, Rene. I'm going to be recommending more of that to my patients,
Actually,
friends, and family.
there's one last thing I could share with people, just because I know that we might have some people that love to look at the studies, perhaps.
Yeah, me.
And of course, on PubMed and the different studies here. So what I've actually done here is, the main ingredient is called the 7-hydroxy methylphenol, or the 7-HMR for short. And what I've done here is I've collected all of the studies I could possibly find. And let me show it to you over here right now, actually. So this is actually a Google Doc that I can send to you. You can also share with your other listeners here. But every link here, you can see these links here, is a link to an actual study on this topic. So from
Amazing.
ADHD, Alzheimer's, ALS, antibacterial, anti-cancer, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-tumor, antiviral, anxiety, stress, mental health, neuroprotective, apoptosis, bioavailability, birth outcomes, blood-brain barrier, blood pressure, body weight, breast cancer, cancer therapy, heart disease, cataracts, celiac, cholesterol, colon cancer, dementia, diabetes, endometriosis, encephalitis, intralactone, epilepsy, glaucoma, gut-brain axes, which is also like autism, gynecological diseases, hair growth, hormonal balance, hot flash, menopause, HIV, Huntington's disease, hypertension, IBD or bowel disease, immune system, kidney disease, lipofacility, lung cancer, metabolism, metastasis, migraines, non-toxic osteoporosis, Parkinson's, polycystic ovaries, prostate, sexual function, TMF, UTI, and vitality. So all of these have a national study on every single one that you just saw.
Amazing. No, that's great, because part of this is, well, everything we try to do in wellness is we can back it by science. There's got more validity to it, but it also is, we're paying attention here. So there's a lot, this is a very, very good point to make before we close up here, is in a functional lens, there's two ways to look at it. There could be a lot of things that happen down and then downstream one problem. And there could be one problem that has a lot of downstream problems for a patient. So you think about one exposure to one chemical could cause a lot of problems, or many problems of the environment, like we talked about, can cause a specific harm. So it just depends on how the body takes it and what it does. So those things that it is indicated to help or treat, in a way, we've got the science to show. So that's great. We'll share that with our listeners. So thank you for that. But knowing like what this product is helping many things because it really is getting to that really root cause of why things are getting out of dysfunction.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing and understanding that it's not just pseudo. We're moving towards a science that says, hey, if we do something that really makes sense here, look what we can get over here. So I'm glad that we're paying attention and that the science is also there. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you for your time. And I'm glad to have just been to share this product with your community. It's going to help a lot of people out there.
Yeah. And thank you for your passion. Thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate connecting and sharing. I no doubt know that we'll have more conversations in the future. I love connecting with like-minded, heart-centered people that are really here to help the planet and help people's health and wellness. So I really appreciate what you're doing, Rene. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Thank you.
Stay well.
Thanks for listening to the Beyond the Pills podcast. You can find Josh on LinkedIn and Facebook at Josh Rimany and on TikTok at Beyond the Pills. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd be forever grateful if you left a review wherever you get your podcasts. If you know somebody who wants to go beyond the pills, send them this episode. If you've got any specific questions or ideas for future episodes, reach out to Josh and send him a message. Thanks again for being a part of the Beyond the Pills community. We'll see you next time.